this! We stand as one!
Are you gonna give me orders?
As soon as you join the game, Sean, I think we are ready to fire up our first best of 5, which is going to be Zest versus uThermal. Obviously, a special match for me. I'm, of course, Dutch, just like uThermal is. I am a fan, but I'm going to be honest with you, Sean. I'm a little bit worried for uThermal in this one. Like, I know that his motivation is at an all-time high to perform well in this tournament, right? This is TSL. He's a TeamLiquid player. He wants to play fantastic StarCraft here, but this is the one matchup where over the last few weeks, he's not been too happy with it.
I mean, if you watch Thermal's matches yesterday, he looked pretty good and particularly resilient to getting harassed and whatnot. But Zest is hungry. Zest is, I'd almost call him the textbook Protoss. Like, if you're looking to get good at Protoss, just copy Zest's builds. Just do what Zest does. He is very straightforward, has extremely good build refinement. And I actually think that that might be the biggest struggle for uThermal because, I mean, Zest is just going to outstandard the standard play.
No, I love the way you put it. Zest plays a simple version of StarCraft. He just does it at an incredibly high level, which makes it still very hard to defeat him. Anyway, guys, here we go with our first best of 5. We have 8 best of 5s in store for you guys today. In the left bottom side of Everdream, we're looking at the main base of the Dutch Terran player. It is uThermal.
Now, Roddy, I've been training for this for a long time. Cracking the knuckles, doing my best tasteless impersonation. In the top right, the powerhouse Protoss from Korea. It is Zest.
You know, I feel for the longest time, at one point, Zest was like, all right, I can either win against Terran in a very complicated manner, and that is by tacking up, getting Storm and Observers, and then going Colossus and Disruptors, or I can make 12 gateways with Zealots and Stalkers and just run over my opponents. And that style was incredibly good for a while, but it has actually been nerfed a little bit, right? Like, upgrades take longer right now for Protoss, and I think the charge nerf that went through a couple months ago, I actually think has a very big impact. Yeah, sure, Zealots are super fast, but that -8 damage, that impact damage, I think that's something you really miss with this style. So I can assume that things got a little bit harder for Zest.
Yeah, I mean, it's always really straightforward when you throw a storm down on a bunch of Marines and you go, yeah, that was a good storm. I can figure out what's up with that. But, like, you know, the sort of very slight style that Zest favors a lot, I feel like Zest's signature move is the 4th Nexus. He gets the 4th Nexus, he favors huge gateway armies and transitions to some of those juicy powerhouse units, often a little bit later. But like you say, the subtlety of what was working before is kind of, you know, it shoots you in the foot when you're trying to employ that same style. And looks like we see, is this a second? No, this is a factory in the middle of the map for Thermal.
Yeah, so uThermal over the last few months, I like to call them baboon builds. He has definitely done a couple of baboon builds where it's like he makes things look normal, but then suddenly has 3 Rexes, or he does like a 31 SCV all-in on 2 bases. Well, this is even more extreme. It's a 1-base opening that Zest, of course, is aware of. And now we see a proxy factory and a proxy starport in the middle of the map. So I assume that it's maybe going to be like a Marine push at the low ground and then a tiny Hellion drop in the main or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to go one of 2 ways. This is either going to be us saying, what a great... Oh, no, the Adept, the Shade is not even going to look up at the high ground, and there's already the Marines there to meet the Adept. And this already doesn't really give any valuable information. Is there a second supply depot at the entrance? Of course, lifting up in time. Zest is going to not... let the Shade finish, going to instead pull back. But I mean, this is either going to be the, man, it's always good to cheese in the first game of a best of 5, or this is going to be, do you want to know how to hold off cheese? Watch Zest, who's already going for the comfortable blank defense.
I really think that Zest needs a shield battery, at least 1 in the natural, maybe even 2. I would say 1 in natural, 1 in the main. We can do see uThermal is expanding at home. I love that battery, but this is still going to be hard because Zest is very low on units at this point. And sure, he's going to be safe in the natural against the Hellions, but the Hellions will actually show up in his main base while the Marines are going to keep these units busy in the natural. I actually think uThermal is going to kill a buttload of probes over here.
Absolute last-second gateway placed down at the front for some potential wall up. We see the Hellion in the back of the main, immediately going in, starting to pick off probes. 5 already down. And, I mean, uThermal is also going into the front with the Marines, and it looks like there's a single Stalker that has to retreat back.
Yeah, that Stalker was actually on move command. It just ran into the Marines. It didn't get a single shot off. So Zest losing 15 probes. Okay, I mean...
Oh, no! uThermal only loaded up a single Marine. I guess that is the chosen Marine, man. The other 4 on the ground were like, hey, come back, help. I mean, Zest already does a pretty good defense, but 15 probes down.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It is not game-ending damage, because obviously uThermal has a much later expand, so Zest was able to lose a couple workers, but losing 15, I feel like that's a few more you would like to lose. If he would have lost like 9 or 10 there, I'd be like, yeah, well, it was a 1-base opening. I think he's actually okay, because he does have Blink. I mean, right now we're tied up in the worker count. It's 28 against 28. That's never really a place where you want to be as a Protoss player.
Very cute moves from Thermal, just denying this 3rd base. And I feel like this is sort of showing the sort of level that Thermal plays at, where killing off of 15 workers actually does not matter that much if you don't also get ahead with your 2nd base. And, Zest, you can see acknowledging that he's probably still not very far behind in terms of economy, is going for the fast 3rd base in the face of all this aggression. And back home, we see a lot of the infrastructure still underway for uThermal. We see Stim, we see Combat Shield. There's no engineering bays for upgrades. There's sort of like the next step that Terran players would normally want to be starting to pressure around, obviously going to be delayed by that early proxy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you proxy a starport, you proxy a factory, you open up with Hellions, all of that is really good to kill workers. It's not very good for the follow-ups, right? That means that Stim and Combat Shield are going to take a little while. But with the amount of damage uThermal has dealt here, I do feel like we are heading towards a point where his first push, I think there is a lot of potential, because Zest also doesn't have any forges. I mean, he warps in one right now. But I think there's a good chance that the first big fight will take place way before +1 armor is done. And Zealots without +1 armor are not that fantastic. And I'm actually shocked to see he didn't even start charge yet. It's just pure Blink Stalkers at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when you are up against a wall, doing transitional moves can always be quite scary. So just continuing to make Blink Stalkers, which are just the absolute juiciest, cleanest defense you have at this point in the game. Looks like uThermal's very first pressure opportunity after the proxy's coming up. Just going to hang out a little bit, maybe wait for... Nope, looks like he's going to get aggressive.
Tiny drop. He did a tiny drop in the main. That one chosen Marine that you mentioned before was actually going to distract Zest a little bit. But I think that uThermal's really surprised him by the amount of Stalkers that Zest has. Zest blinks forward because he's not afraid. He activated a Guardian Shield there as well. And suddenly, I'm starting to like Zest's position a little bit more. I think for uThermal, it's important that he doesn't attack anymore with like 6 or 7 units, because that's where the Stalkers can shine. But if the bio ball goes into like, 20 plus units, then I think it becomes really hard to micro your way out of it, even if your name is Zest.
And I mean, this feels like the kind of move that I admire so much about Zest. He doesn't have any robotics facility AoE units. He has no storm. He's just transitioning into more and more and more gateways, and he always seems to have just barely enough. And I don't know about this attack from Thermal. I mean, Zest has a lot of Stalkers spread out. It's going to all be down to, can he pick off enough of these Stalkers? 1, 2, 3 go down. Great target firing by uThermal, but we see the Stalkers from the main coming down. And the question is, were too many corners cut from Zest? The probes are coming out, and that's when you know things are not looking good. Immediately, Zest with some nice blink micro. The probes starting to fall. Pylon gets picked off, canceling the warp in, and uThermal gets the GG out of Zest. Woo!
That is a very feisty way to start the second day of TSL 5. I don't think many people predicted that one. Really good game there. I think if Zest maybe had all his Stalkers in the same place there, then I think I agree with you that bio ball was somewhat big. But I think if he maybe like snipes 1 or 2 Marauders, then suddenly with a Guardian Shield, maybe he would be able to survive there. But the fact that uThermal stalled that army on the right side, and he didn't hesitate a second. He just collapsed on that army immediately. And it becomes super awkward for the Protoss play if you have to micro your Stalkers on the right side to the southern part of your screen. And then on the northern side of the screen, you also have Blink Stalkers that have to go in the opposite direction. That's just almost not doable.
No amount of APM can really account for the fact that you need 4 hands there as the Protoss player. And I mean, I really think that that's a showcase of just brilliant timing and preparation from uThermal because, just from like a general conceptual angle, if you attack too early versus Blink Stalkers, the Blink Stalker player goes, oh, thank God it's not a big bio ball. And then they just start to pick off units one at a time. Terran can sometimes try to get cute and do drops. And this is part of the reason why Blink is almost always the big key defensive option for Protoss, not some sort of ultra power unit. And we saw Thermal go in, and you even heard my hesitation when I saw that. Like, I don't really know if this is what you want to do. And uThermal did the perfect timing to get in there and pick off. And it's always hard to feel out those timings because of how variable a Hellion drop can go at the start of the game. Very, very nice follow-up from uThermal.
Yeah, I was actually surprised with how Zest played it out in the beginning of the game, because he did scout that it was a one-base opening. He knew it was one base, and he didn't feel like he was particularly worried. He was just like, no, I'm still building probes, and if you open up with Hellions in the front, I'll just get a little wall off going. It's like, well, I mean, uThermal's a really good player. It's not going to be that simple as you make a wall off and you're going to be fine against his one-base opening, right? That's always going to be a bigger problem that you have to deal with. And I think, obviously, we can focus on the end where he only had Stalkers and nothing else. But I think Zest will look at that game and be like, I lost too many probes. I should just defend better early on. And then a game like that won't happen anymore.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of what separates your very, very good ladder all-stars from a tournament great like Zest, is when you're trying, just the way that your brain lies to you, the bigger and more punchy and amazing the moment, the more your brain goes, oh, that was really awesome. Like, the big storm moment. But it is so hard to go, yeah, no, I had that. I just needed one stalker positioned in a different location. I just need to lose 2 less probes, and then I'm going to be okay. And I think that this is probably what we're going to see moving farther and farther into this series, especially on Golden Wall, which, I've seen Zest play some pretty long, juicy games on.
Yeah, Golden Wall is crazy. This is actually the map where I've seen uThermal do his baboon build a couple of times, where it's just like, everything is normal. I just go Reaper, fast expand. We're just macroing up. And then suddenly he just doesn't build an SCV for a minute or 2 minutes straight. And we're like, okay, is he falling asleep on his keyboard, or is this part of the strategy? And then he just moves to the other side of the map with an insane amount of bio units way earlier than you expected. Anyway, this is cool because Tilo included me in his little prediction game where he said that I was going to have half of my predictions wrong today. I did pick Zest over here, Sean, so I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable.
I'm on Team Roddy here. Don't you worry, my dude.
All right. Well, in the left bottom side of Golden Wall, we're looking at the main base of the man who's down 0-1, hailing from South Korea. It is Zest.
And down in the bottom right, following up on a nice 3-1 in yesterday's winner bracket round, currently up 1-0, it's Liquipedia. This map is fantastic. Anyone who says anything different is wrong. If you don't downvote this on the ladder, I admire you, because this is the kind of map that a lot of weird, interesting styles can emerge from. And, you were talking a little bit about this thermal build. Like, what is it about this map that you feel like uThermal would be able to exploit with that kind of opening?
I'm not exactly sure. That's why when I looked at it, I'm just confused. But what I can say about Golden Wall is that this map is obviously massive, right? And if we take a look at what happened to Proto Scouting, is that observers are slower right now than they used to be. And there was a very funny patch note about it. It's like we could feel the frustration of Terran players scanning and barely not catching the observer. So we made them slower. I was like, what? This is like the funniest wording I've ever seen in a balanced patch note. But
dude, Blizzard has that amazing, gentle tone about everything. Like, if I was on fire, they'd be like, I recognize that you are having some challenges with trying to douse yourself, And I'm just, okay, well, please bring buckets of water. Mm-hmm. We want to let you know that we are listening and we care about your feedback. And they'll make a change and everything, but...
Yeah, exactly. So basically where I was going is that a lot of maps, like if you think of Everdream, for instance, if you put an observer on the left side of Zest's main where he was in the previous game, it's like, you'll see pretty much every drop coming. On this map, Golden Wall, that just doesn't work like that. There's so many spots you would have to cover. Medevacs can come in all the way via the south side. So as a Protoss player, you are going to be a little bit worried. You're going to be a little bit hesitant. And then you need to get an observer maybe all the way to the other side of the map. It takes forever. The main base is somewhat big as well. So maybe uThermal just feels that this is a map where Protoss players don't have the same information as they have on a lot of the smaller maps.
Yeah, and I mean, we see that Thermal already taking the, I guess the good old Reaper that's not going to see anything new. It's a fast Twilight Council. We have 2 bases up. It's still a single gateway. Nothing too notable out of Zest at this point in time. And I mean, I think what you're saying can't be emphasized enough, Roddy, that you wind up in so many of the ladder maps, in sort of a triangle pushed against the side, in a triangular corner shape, is very straightforward to defend. Every time you grow the size of your base, your set of expansions, there's only about 2 broad angles you have to defend from. But on Golden Wall, you kind of have this weird wedge that opens up. The more you expand, the more vulnerable open space that you have. And I mean, even right now, heading up to take this third Zest, still has to be increasingly careful, like you were saying, about that far bottom left, where there's 1,000,001 different attack angles.
Yeah, I've already seen uThermal once or twice start an SCV and then he canceled it. Like, I know a lot of people will be looking at this like, well, Protoss is 10 workers ahead, but that's what Chrono Boost does, right? They're always 10 workers ahead. It's like, no, that's not what's happening over here. uThermal went for a super quick stim. He has actually cut SCV production already a couple of times, just like I mentioned in the beginning of the game. And look at how late this Robo is. Zest is going to keep his Blink Stalkers at home because he's worried about a Widowmine drop, maybe a Banshee later on, a regular Medevac drop, or Hellions again. What he's not going to see is this army until it shows up in his front door, and I'm legitimately getting very worried for Zest in this game.
What a gorgeous opening from uThermal. And I mean, like, the struggle with this sort of build as a Protoss player, it's not just Blinkstalker Observer. Don't think of it as Blinkstalker 3 base. Think of it as Blinkstalker Observer Vision. You need to have vision with hallucinations, with adepts, with observers in multiple locations, and uThermal's just exploiting this. I mean, look at the vision of Zest. Zest is not going to see this until it is right at the front door, and with all those small corner cuttings that uThermal did, I don't know if Zest even has enough units.
I'm very worried for Zest here. He's going to see it now. He blinks, actually, but he has to be careful because there is Stim already, my friend. Those 2 Marauders are going to be very hard to deal with. This is so difficult. The probes are going to get pulled by a lot of
another
stalkers.
probe pool getting completely mowed down to 2 stalkers, down to 1 stalker. I mean, Thermal's going to be Zest is going to be trying to defend, but Thermal just busts through a quick 2-0.
Wow, it really does seem that Zest is not that well prepared to deal with how uThermal plays. I mean, his setup is really good if he plays against a traditional Reaper fast expand and then there is a mine drop like 4 minutes and 45 seconds into the game. That is clearly what he was doing. But everything that I was worried about for Zest happened in this game. His Robo was so late that by the time his Observer was out, that army was already there. The hallucinated Phoenix count went in the bottom side of the map rather than through the middle where the obvious attack would come from. I mean, if for the people at home who wonder, like, what should Zest have done? It's always going to be tough, but with this opening, if the Blink Stalkers are out on the map and they see that army of uThermal leave, then you can start maybe forcing an early stim, you can pick off 1 or 2 Marines, and then by the time that it arrives on your side of the map, the Terran army is smaller, you have additional warpins, maybe a shield battery, and then Zest would have been okay, but he just didn't know, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a lesson that you relearn again and again and again and again and again and again as a player, where you start to just get into this groove where you're like, okay, and then once I see what he's doing, then I'm going to start to figure things out. And uThermal's timing hit right before the once I see what you're doing part. And there's like so many different compositions that are my fast units suck at defense, but are really good at delaying, picking off, harassing, not the main base, but harassing the army ball that's moving out. Because you saw that Zest was so close to having another warping round of stalkers and blink and everything good, and uThermal hit like 5 seconds. And these aren't even regular seconds. These are blizzard seconds that move faster than normal in StarCraft 2, right? Like just barely before. And I mean, I think that it can't be stressed enough just how galaxy brain it was for you, Roddy, to point out that SCV is getting cut in that opening stage. Because if I'm the Protoss player and I see that attack, my brain goes, this isn't happening. You should not have this many units at this point in time. You do not have the resources to do it. This is incorrect.
You could see that Zest as well. He saw a Hellion. He's like, oh, cool, a Hellion. Blink forward. He's like, oh, my God. Like, what is that? Steam Marines? Wow. Well, a little bit of an upset alert here in our first best of 5 of the day. Obviously, it's not done yet. But this man is really going to have to step up his game. He can't just show up and expect to beat somebody as the Terran that he's currently facing. He's going to have to be a little more alert and be a little more cleaner in his defenses. It is Zest.
And down in the bottom right, playing just like an absolute baller, only using one hand at this point in time and cutting SCVs aplenty. It's Liquithermal.
Look at these mind games, Sean. He is going to proxy a barracks, but It's not a real proxy. It's more like,
Yeah.
I hope that you get really worried if you see that my barracks isn't at home, and I hope that you do something weird, because then maybe I can get ahead again.
This is a very SOS kind of move. I'm going to be hidden about standard play, just to kind of make
Yeah.
the opponent make mistakes. But looks like I lied a little bit. We see the second refinery down. Now, if you're Protoss and you see 2 refineries, no barracks, you begin to get concerned, Roddy.
Yep. No, I'd be very worried. I'd be like, okay, what is happening here? Is he doing a weird like proxy marauder maybe, or is this going to be a traditional 1-1-1 all-in? I mean, we actually saw that at the GSL somewhat recently, and you can see that Zest is indeed getting a little worried already. He's like, you know what? I'll go Zealot and I'll go Cybernetics Core before I even think of expanding. But he will still expand, and I think this is something that's going to make uThermal a little bit sad. Because
Yeah.
ideally what you really want to achieve as Terran is that Protoss is super worried and they're like, all right, I'll take my second guess and I'll stay on one base until I really know what's happening. That is not the case. So far, so good, I think, for Zest.
Is under attack.
I really got to wonder what's going on with Zest's mental state, because he didn't just get knocked out in GSL. He got knocked out to innovation doing 2 unexpected cheesy things 2 games in a row. A hidden command center and then a 1 base all in. And now Zest is down 0-2. If he was looking for redemption, he's starting to feel like, oh my God, am I now going to go like bow out of GSL and then 0-3 in the first match of the day? Zest, though, is still kind of sticking to his guns, which at this point on this map, with this kind of, again, triangular shape of the bases pushed against the edge, I still think it's his best bet. But, you know, you got to be worried about how Zest is feeling.
This is actually going to be really interesting. The Reaper shows up in the main base of Zest where, okay, there is 1 Stalker. If Zest can get the Reaper kill, that's massive. And I think he should be able to get it. Oh, the grenade! Oh, good save. Really good save. But there is still something to be worried about for uThermal on the other side of the map, and that is that he has to repair his depots. Now, obviously, the Stalker can shoot at the STVs. So far, the micro by uThermal is really good, though.
Yeah, I mean, this opening right here looks a little bit like Brood War Protoss vs. Terran circa 2005. The Zealot and Zealot and Dragoon pinging at the front. Cyclone, super versatile early defense is going to pop out and send all these harassers home. But no, Zest looks like he is confident he's going to be able to take this out. Oh my gosh, uThermal thought that Zest was going to pull back, but look at this. A nice little pick off from Zest.
Normally, the Cyclone is indeed supposed to shut this party down, but Zest is just like, oh no, I'll just run it out of lock-on range, and then I really want to get that depot. I've been working hard to get this depot. I actually think this has been a pretty good setup so far for Zest, as long as he doesn't overstep his boundaries here. He has to be careful, because that tank is out at this point. You don't want to be losing these units. He seems like he's heading home. Okay, well, that command center is still just a command center. It's not even an orbital command yet.
Yeah.
Well, I like it for Zest.
This is a really beautiful display of just like doing standard play and pushing the boundaries. I mean, those units pulled out right before that tank came out. The Cyclone arrived, and I mean, you heard me. I was like, all right, and now the attack is done. It's done. Leave. You're supposed to leave. And this is what, you know, you can exploit. We even saw uThermal pull all the SCVs. Everyone watching thought that he was going to pull back, but nope. Picking off a depot, doing a second round follow-up right when the lock-on from the Cyclone is off cooldown. And Liquithermal is in a much, much more defensive posturing than he was in any of the previous games.
Yeah, and it seems like this is once again going to be one of those off-meta, off-timing kind of builds. Well, for uThermal, it almost becomes meta. Like, the fact that he's down 9 workers in this game makes sense because he opened up on 1 base, and Zest obviously has been producing a few more workers. But you can already see the heavy emphasis on units at this point. This scout is really important for Zest. If he sees the barracks, it's a massive tell. He sees 3 sieging. What an amazing hallucinated Phoenix scout. He gets everything that he needs to know. And at this point, you can get those stalkers out on the map because there's no starport shell. No starport means you have nothing to worry about at home. Get those units out on the map. Finally, I feel like Zest knows what he's up against, and he's making the correct calls at this point.
Double shield battery, immortal, and chrono boost on the immortal. Zest is like, okay, at the very least, I'm not going to lose to this attack. But I think in the GSL, was it Bunny that did this sort of mass marine tank push right around this time that just absolutely crippled a Protoss opponent. And here we see Zest doing little tiny pickoffs, just gets 1 marine, And the big push is beginning. Now, Thermal has to be very, very careful. Even if Stim and Combat Shield complete, wow, great blink. Even if those complete, there's no medevacs here. So each Stim that Zest can bait out, ugh.
Yeah, he ate a couple of big shots there. You know, Sean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I am so confused he doesn't start Charge here. Like, Charge is an upgrade that is done so quickly. It really doesn't take that long. And this is an army that really struggles with Zealots. That's a really good position, by the way, for the Stalkers. Getting a couple of very important hits off. Zest is buying time, but I'm asking myself, what is he buying time for? Because normally you buy time for Charge. He doesn't get Charge. He's gonna blink into 4 tanks, apparently, but the guy's crazy.
I mean, look at the third base. Zest has no probes mining and, more importantly, no probes producing. Zest looks a little bit like he's in panic mode. We see 4 shield batteries at the front forming a pseudo wall there. We see the triple immortal trying to push forward. The stalkers at the back have cut off reinforcements, and Thermal is getting ready to siege up this base, but there's no probes right now.
It's unfortunate that battery is gonna go down. It seems like Zest is gonna go for it, but no!
Oh no!
He just blinked only the Stalkers on the south side, so he loses half of his army. Zest can still technically deal with this, but he really needs to start being a little more decisive. Look at the minimap. There are so many additional units coming in. Zest, you need to clean up this army before it's too late.
Zest is picking off so many units. The Nexus might fall, but there's still no probes down. We see a Stim, and all the Marine Marauder from the top go assault those Stalkers. Immortals try to dash up, pick off some of the tanks. But look at this! A pile of SCVs now come to join in on the party, and we're looking at the supply 91 to 75. uThermal is pulling ahead.
Yeah, there comes the blink. So this is kind of it for Zest, but these Stalkers are way too exposed. Are you kidding me? uThermal with the 3-0? What? What?
I mean, I think it is reasonable to say that uThermal is, you know, he's going to be able to capably deal with a lot of these high-level players, but like a 3-0 decisively in 3 quick games with 3 different builds. I mean, this is like, here are 3 examples of how to defeat an Observer Blink opening from Protoss. It's just clinical, clean, straightforward.
Yeah, I find the last game maybe the most shocking one, and that one leaves us with most to talk about, I think, because it really did feel that Zest figured it out somewhat quickly. I didn't hate this start. Like, at one point, he could have maybe had a few more probes, but I think all of it was fine. All of it was clean. The hallucinated Phoenix Scout was perfect. And at this point, I'd be like, Zest, do what you love to do, mate. Start Charge, warp in 6 more gateways, because we all know how those fights look. If Protoss has, like, 8-9 Zealots with Charge into tanks. Like, Sean, if we think back about it, I think he made 4 or 5 shield batteries.
Yeah. Like 4.
They never did anything.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel so often commentators talk about doing something off-putting in the very first game to throw off your opponent in the later matches. And that third game was absolute clear evidence of Zest getting, you know, uThermal was in Zest's head. Zest not just built 5 shield batteries, but then attacked away from the shield batteries. And when you're doing a no AoE, no power unit, you know, Stalker, Zealot heavy opening, the most important thing you can do is make sure you don't miss out on a lot of your unit production. Going on 5 gates, hey, what if those shield batteries were instead 2 more gates? What if you had 1 shield battery and 7 gates pounding out Zealots? What if the charge was done? But I mean, uThermal just dismantled Zest in that match.
No, I 100% agree with everything you said there. Like, that is a mistake that I actually often make, and I think a lot of gamers at home make. It was like, we see an attack coming. Let's get static defenses. And then it's like, wait, this attack is here. Maybe I should just fight right now. It's like, oh no, I lost the battle. And I just spent like 600 resources on static defenses that I never used because I was stupid enough to fight away from them. Like, I
just healing each other now that your army's dead.
Exactly. And like, it makes sense. Anyway, we'll talk more about it as soon as we are back, because we're going to head over to our very first quick break of the day.
We stand as one.
Are you gonna give me orders?